Okay, so welcome to the Establish a Practice Breathwork and Meditation Challenge. So, in this introduction, I am going to tell you about the details and all the resources that you get with the course and everything that you have access to, and the flow of the program. And I will also be talking a little bit about the inspiration behind making this challenge to everyone, or this offering, and why I'm making it so affordable, because I hope that everyone will begin and establish a practice. And I'll also talk about where the inspiration comes from the yoga teachings. So, with the course itself, there's 4 phases. And so each new phase will be dropped on Thursday, starting September 1st, but it could be beginning on any month. So starting on Thursday, the information will be available to you, and then you'll have access to the 1 hour description of that week's phase and that week's practice, where I'll talk about breath work and the science behind breath work, and talk about meditation and the context for meditation, and why we meditate and some of the benefits. But mostly the focus of this challenge, right, is to do it, is to practice. So much of the time is focused on preparing you to get ready for the practice, understanding the practice that we're going to do, and then the practices themselves. So you'll listen to the first hour all the way through inside of the course, and then the next module is just the practice pulled out so that you can go back and do just the practice every day of the week. So there'll be discussion in the 1 hour session about when to do your practice and why we're doing practice. That's, in this case, in week 1, 16 minutes, so fairly short time, and then how the practice will progress over the 4 weeks. And then, after doing your practice diligently each day, we'll meet on the following Wednesday. So every Wednesday at noon, there'll be a live Zoom, which you'll find access to in the course. Live Zoom call where we'll do a guided meditation together, and I'll offer an inspirational teaching and a story about my relationship with my yoga practice and my meditation practice, and what I do to stay with it and stay inspired, and some of the transformations that I've noticed in myself from these practices, and the transformations that I've seen in other people. So we'll be talking about, again, why we meditate, and then inspiration on how to keep going, because it's a long life and we want to meditate for the whole thing. So in addition to the 4 phases being launched in that way over the course of the month, you also get access to the Establish a Practice private podcast. So that is all of the audio files from the course broken up, so you can see any one of the individual sections of the program and refer back to it and access that really easily on your phone. And I've also made it so that there's an asterisk as the first little symbol for all of the practices that are for each week. So you'll be able to access them in whatever app you listen to podcasts in. So say Apple Podcasts is your thing, you'll be able to, through the course, click and find that private podcast then in your podcasting app, so that you can return to it as easily as possible. That's really been a huge motivation of mine, is how can we find ways to make practice seamless in people's lives. And something that I've noticed in my experience is that if I don't have easy access to the practice, out of sight, out of mind. So I've gone through great lengths to make it as accessible as possible for you, so that you can take on this challenge. Okay, so that's some of the logistics of what you get and how the course will flow. So basically, by taking on the challenge, you're committing to start with 1 hour of programming a week, and then a daily practice that starts at about 15 minutes and works its way up to about 30 minutes. But all throughout the programming, I'm teaching you about why we're doing the particular practices that we're doing, so that by the end, you'll hopefully be able to choose which practice is most appropriate for you when, and be able to adapt your practice easily. Because although it would be nice to say, boom, sit down and have 30 minutes a day of our meditation practice, it's not that realistic. If you've tried it, you know that it waxes and wanes, and sometimes our motivation is high and we're doing a great job, and sometimes our motivation is low and we're not doing it at all. And so we're trying to find that middle ground and really find a practice that you can do at whatever in whatever state you're in. So sometimes sitting down for meditation is not realistic with whatever your energy level is, or if you're feeling anxiety. So there are other ways that you can shift your perception and become present and move through the energy that you're experiencing at any given time, rather than just sitting on all of the feels. So we'll talk about all of that, and hopefully by the end you'll feel like you've really got your own practice, that it's become established in you. And now I'd like to talk a little bit about why I called the challenge Establish a Practice. And the term establish comes from pretty directly from a verse in the Bhagavad Gita. And I won't go into a whole big explanation about what the Bhagavad Gita is and where it comes from, but you can just know that it's one of the main texts that us Westerners are studying yoga from. And it's a conversation between Krishna, who is wisdom and God personified, and Arjuna, who is on his battlefield trying to take right action in his life. And so it's a conversation between the two of them. And this idea of becoming established in our practice comes from chapter 6. And this is the chapter on meditation. And something that I have noticed and maybe even get a little bit frustrated about is that when people think of meditation, they think that that is separate from their yoga practice. And this is in fact not true at all. The yoga tradition is a deep and thorough meditative tradition, and it gives us this beautiful, elegant way of taking the next right step according to our life and according to our own needs. And so that's what I do as a yoga therapist. I help my clients take the next right, doable step in their life to move towards being established in themselves. And so this practice, this group practice is called this because of these 4 verses. And so I thought I would read them to you and talk a little bit about why I think these are so helpful in, again, helping us stay inspired for our practice. So this chapter again is on the goals of meditation in our yoga practice. This is 620. When the restrained mind ceases from its activities due to the practice of yoga, and when the soul is perceived by means of one's own faculties, then a person finds satisfaction within the self. So this verse uses the word Atman for both the soul and the self, and we can think of them as the same thing. So through the practice of yoga, when we begin to be able to restrain our mind, then through our own faculties, through our own intellect, we perceive our own soul. And so we become established, or we become satisfied within the self. So we recognize ourselves at a soul level and become satisfied with ourselves because of that recognition of ourselves at a soul level. In 621, when the experience of limitless joy, which is grasped by the intellect, but is beyond the range of the senses, one remains fixed on it and never wavers from that truth. So once we experience ourself and our soul and are satisfied in ourself and our soul through our own faculties of our capacity and our intellect, then we never waver from that truth. So once we see and recognize ourselves, we never are away from the truth of ourselves. And this is through our meditation practice. 622, that on gaining which he thinks that there's no greater gain beyond it. So there is nothing better than this feeling of being established and satisfied in the soul and in the self. And wherein established, she is not shaken by even the heaviest sorrow. And so this phrase is really what brought me to this idea of why it's so important that we become established, not in a practice that is imposed upon us, but one that arises from within us and is a devoted discipline. Because when we become established in that, we are not shaken by even the heaviest sorrows. And I don't know about you all, but I've experienced some of the heaviest sorrows in these last years. And I I hope by making this offering and supporting you all with my experience of trying to establish a breathwork and meditation practice and some structure to get it in place, that each of you can become established in your soul and in yourself, and therefore, what was it? Be unshaken by even the heaviest sorrow. And the last one I'll read here, 623. Let that be known by the name of yoga, this disconnection from the union with pain. This yoga should be practiced with determination and with a courageous heart, or with a heart undismayed. So we gather our courage and say, it's worth it to do something. It's worth it to cultivate this relationship with my own self and my own soul and my own breath and my own body, because I'm here and I might as well get to know something about what it's really like to be here. And something that our breath work and our meditation practice helps us with is developing a pause. And that pause is the ability to respond to life rather than being in constant reaction to the situations and circumstances of our lives. So by developing a relationship with your breath can inform you about the state of your body and the state of your emotions. And you develop this call to presence, that when you feel the lack of breath in your body and the breath returns to you, there's a moment where you actually have a choice to react and do the same thing you always do, or a chance to respond and to do something new and to take action in your life that is fresh. And I think that the reason why I'm so passionate about making it really clear that the yoga tradition offers us a step-by-step method for developing a meditation practice is because it's very important to understand, have someone see where you're at and what your circumstances and needs are, and make a recommendation that's appropriate for that, because it's your mind and your thinking that got you into the current mess that you're in, or my mind and my thinking that got me into the current messes that I'm in. And so without an external intervention, we don't see it clearly. We see it upside down. And so something that these practices and techniques that you'll learn from me offer is the ability to regulate and calm your nervous system and assess where you're at, and over time be able to make better choices about how you take care of yourself. So I really believe that breathwork and meditation are vital self-care practices. I like to call them nervous system hygiene, because if you don't do it, you get a little stinky, right? You're not stinky like BO stinky, but stinky in your mind, resentment, greed, constant inner frustration become your normal state. And so meditation reconnects us to that which we truly are, our soul, and our ability to guide our own attention. And so by cultivating your own practice, it's my hope that you will be unshaken by even the heaviest of sorrows, or as one of the verses just before the ones I read says, become like a flame in a windless place, or a flame that's protected from the wind, that's unflickering, unflinching. So it doesn't go out and in, it's steady. And so the flame that is you burns steady and consistent and is unflickering through your practices of breath work and meditation. So I'm available at any point in time during the challenge in the comments. I'm also available, you'll see a link below to book a one-on-one session with me for just $100 so we can talk and I can make specific recommendations for you and what's going on and what your goals are for the challenge. So don't hesitate to reach out in any of those ways, and I look forward to seeing you on our Wednesdays at noon Central Standard Time, group meditations and story time, really. So I hope that you'll come to those. They really anchor the program, and then again, the next day, the next step of our 4 phases launches. So, okay, thank you all so much, and I hope to see you.